South Africa commemorate the death of former presidents Nelson Mandela and Fidel Castro. Mandela and Castro had a strong relationship that dates back during the struggle years. During the first visit to the US after he was released from prison, Mandela told the Americans that he will never abandon those who supported the struggle. Our foreign editor Sophie Mokoena compiled this report.
December 2013, the country bidding farewell to the icon. Local and international guests in attendance. For the family, it was time to part with the man whom they affectionately called Tata. Others called him Madiba. 3 years later, Cuba also buried its former leader Fidel Castro. The two countries recently remembered the deaths of their leaders. The commemoration was held in Santiago, Cuba. This is Fidel Castro's grave.
It is unpolished, strength and unity of the Cuban Revolution. There are 19 columns around the monolith, around the tomb of him, representing the 19 columns founded by him from his mother column, Sierra Maestra 1957, and the chains, the symbol of unity of the Cuban people.
For South African students in Cuba, the death of Castro is still fresh in their minds.
All the Cubans, they were in a state where most of the people, they were asking themselves, how are we going to continue after now, because the main motto of the Cuban Revolution is no longer here. But because of a thing they called it preparation, psychologically and ideologically, whoever who is a Cuban right now will tell you that Fidel lives in me.
It does not matter what you do with your personal life, but what you accumulate and give to other people. It's very important. As when you die, they'll still remember you. Because everyone was shouting, "Yo soy Fidel," which it means I am Fidel. I wrote something that says, "Yo soy Fidel, yo soy Madiba, yo soy Cubano y Sudafricano." That's what I wrote.
Madiba and Castro had strong bonds.
You have praised Fidel Castro as a leader of human rights and said that Cuba was one of the countries that's head and shoulders above all other countries in human rights, despite the fact that documents at the United Nations and elsewhere show that Cuba is one of the worst. I was just wondering, are these your models of leaders of human rights? And if so, would you want a Gaddafi or an Arafat or a Castro to be a future president of South Africa?
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. That we can and we will never do. We have our own struggle which we are conducting. We are grateful to the world for supporting our struggle. But nevertheless, we are an independent organization with its own policy. And the attitude of every country towards, our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi, Fidel Castro, support our struggle to the hilt. There is no reason whatsoever why we should have any hesitation about hailing their commitment to human rights as they are being demanded in South Africa. Our attitude is based solely on the fact that they fully support the anti-apartheid struggle. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle. That is the position.
The bonds between the two countries continue, despite the US applying pressure on the UN member countries to isolate the island nation.
Typical of the Cuban people, there too, there are doctors, Cuban doctors, who are involved in the African continent to help our people to deal with the scourge of Ebola. There too, you will recall that people like Che Guevara died in the African continent. He was not born in the African continent, but because of this internationalist approach to issues, he died in the Congo. And these are some of the things which our people should never forget. We should always remember that you can never fight your struggle alone. We should always remember that even when you have your freedom, you should always look backwards and help those who have not as yet reached their destination, such as the Palestinians and the people of Sahrawi.
Sophie Mokoena, SABC News.